Live streaming is on.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is David Brooks. I normally say David Brooks, the Cadillac Counselor, but today I'm going to talk to you guys about me running for the Board of Education. Now, a lot of people have asked me, why are you running? After watching some of the things that have been going on in our community, my heart has become heavy. I've been reading several material, just trying to connect to God as much as I possibly can, and He just is revealing to me that it's my time and my purpose for giving back to my community in this way. Now, whenever I was dealing with the Middletown situation, people think that I was trying to use that for my own glory of any kind, but I was really trying just to understand what was going on in the world of bullying. I've watched it in some of my kids because all four of my kids go to Frederick County and they're involved in the school system, in the public school system. Now, my kids have went to private institutions during the pandemic because I wanted them to go to school. I think that school is very important. So let me explain a little bit about myself before I get into the fact of why I want to run. I was one of those kids in school that stuttered. I had an IEP all throughout my school. Alternative schools, I've been there too. I went to alternative school because I was fighting, because people were making fun of my stuttering, and just a whole lot of other things that was going on in my life. I've been through the very bottom of the school system. And most people don't realize is that I graduated in the top 5% of my class. Now, why did I graduate in the top 5? Because my parents did their best to make sure that I did not get caught up in the system. Now, did I still get caught in the system? Yes, I did. One thing I've learned about just education in general, and I've been a school teacher, I taught for almost 4 years. One thing I have learned is that we as adults need to stay adults, and the children need to stay children. But what I've noticed in a lot of the public school systems is that the children are running everything, but not getting everything in return. Administration seems to be scared of the parents. The parents are scared of the children to make those tough decisions. I've had many parents in my office that have been struggling trying to get their children involved in the school system. Sometimes they just don't want to get up in the morning and go to school. Parents are literally trying their best to persuade their kids. They're even paying their kids to try to go to school, anything they can so that they wouldn't get truancy. Then next thing you know, the sheriff's department is contacting them saying that if they don't go to school, there's going to be a major problem. These parents don't know what to do. A lot of them are really good people and they're trying their best to get their children the help that they need, but nobody really addresses all the mental health issues that are going on. Especially after the pandemic, there's been a lot of mental health situations going on. Adjustment disorders are going everywhere. Clinical depression and clinical anxiety is being seen. And these are some of the things that I definitely want to take a look at and bring to the board a different outlook. We need to have somebody that's focused on mental health. We need to have someone on the board that's really understands whenever a kid is going through an IEP, how does it really feel? A lot of people have never been in that side of the fence. And I'm going to tell you, as a kid that grew up with an IEP, if the school system doesn't do the right thing by them, it's going to be detrimental for their future. Our goal is to get children to be productive citizens in our society, but it's also our job as parents and the community to make sure that public safety is number one. And so that brings me to my first thing that I definitely want to bring to the table is alternative school systems. Now, a lot of these kids, they do get in trouble and they constantly are, bringing drugs to school and fighting and skipping school and a lot of different things that make these kids look like they are bad children. But we owe it to those children to reform them and to work them into the system so that they don't be part of the system. And that's my first thing, is that when we look at disciplining children and really bringing an eye to what children are going through, I want to bring the criminogenic mindset. And the criminogenic mindset is find out what does that child need to keep them from being in the system or to continue with criminal behavior. Now, you might not look at some of the issues that the kids are going through as criminal behavior, but I'm going to tell you this. As I was in the jail system running groups, there was a time that I asked everyone, I had 24 men, and I said, how many of you have been into alternative school systems at any point in your school? 23 out of 24 of the clients say that they have been in alternative schools. What does that show you? That shows you that someone already saw there was a problem and it was just pushed to the side. And what ended up happening? Our tax dollars. Now we're paying for them to be housed in these correctional institutions, whether it's in jail or whether it's in prison. Why not, as the school board, whenever we get those kids that come in with these problematic issues, why not teach them about themselves? Especially in the alternative schools, we can definitely bring some instruction that will help them with their personality. The fact that they're lying or they're stealing or they're committing some type of small thing now, but once they get older and those behavioral issues get worse, they're going to end up in prison or even in jail. And that's my first thing, is we need to start looking at public safety through an educational lens. Why are these kids getting in trouble? Most of them have went through different traumas. Most of these children have been through situations in their families, and they just need to figure out how they live in the world today. But if we keep throwing them in these places where all they do is go to school half a day, and then they get out and then they're running a tear through school, and most of these parents, I feel for you. You have to go to work. And most of these kids go home at like 2, 3 o'clock in the daytime, and they have free-for-alls until 5 o'clock. So if we're going to be as a school system and we're going to have them in our classes, let's teach them how to become better citizens so that we don't have to pay for them in the long run. They can be able to stand up on their own. Now, the second thing that I want to address as a member of the board is that I want to look at the IEPs. Now, I used to work at Ivy Mount, where we worked with autism and different Asperger's, but now we don't have those spectrums. It's pretty much all autism. I've worked with behavioral students as a behavioral specialist. I was the person that only looked at the behavioral aspects. I used to teach the teachers and the staff how to handle these children that are struggling behaviorally. A lot of times they wanted to go in and grab the kid. No, that's not the first, that is definitely not the first response. There's other ways to handle that. And that's the reason why I want to come in and truly teach and make sure that these kids with IEPs, whether they got any type of intellectual disabilities or just verbal disabilities, or just any type of disability that is causing them to have a harder time going through school. And I know parents, I used to go to the kids' homes and I would see the frustration on the parents because they've done it all. They've been there with their child the entire time, trying their best to make something of their child, but all they need is help. And if the school district or the school system is not focused in on making that happen, that's a problem for me. And that's going to be some of the best things that I can bring to the table, is because I know what it takes to make those kids have a better life. Some people, I did see what happened with the school system this past year. And I was shaking my head and I was just saying to myself, that should have been the last resort. But if they don't get taught and they really don't understand, and if there's a culture of grabbing them and then putting them in seclusion, then that's the way that the new staff ends up doing. They might learn something in a classroom or get some video that they have to watch on how to handle it. But if they're watching the experienced teachers do these incorrect techniques, they're going to just jump in line with them. And that's one thing that I definitely want to look at, and especially substitute teachers. I can tell you right now, most of the people that are in substituting don't normally like to go into the schools that have special education or take those classes. So why not improve the amount of time that the substitutes have to learn? You might want to work in some financial benefits for people that get that proper education, even if they're a substitute. Because people think that you're just there for a day. But no, that one day could be the same day that that child changes the way that they live their life. They might get some respect for someone. Every person that's in the classroom needs to be trained. You can't just have anybody just walk in just because they think they want to work with special education students. It's a very hard job, and I've been there before. And I definitely want to help those teachers out, because I know that by the end of the day, you are worn out, you are tired. And that's some of the things that I'm going to look at. The last thing is my specialty. I definitely see the substance abuse rates going higher and higher in education, especially within students. The reason why most of these students are dropping out is normally due to some type of substance, alcohol, or either another type of drug. Now, we might say to ourselves, is that something that we want to get involved in a school? Why not? If it's causing kids to drop out of school, why not bring that into the schools? They normally have a period, especially in high school, where they have a little free time. Why not use that free time to allow those students to have an opportunity to have a self-help group so that they can talk about substance abuse use, so they can talk about some of the issues that they're dealing with? It doesn't need to be clinical. It just needs to have the opportunity for these children to talk to maybe professionals, bring them into the schools so that they can talk about some of the problems they're having, so that they won't feel like they're alienated or they're outcast. I want to bring something special to the schools, all of them, no matter whether it's in Brunswick, whether it's in Frederick, Thurmont, Mount Airy, it doesn't matter where you're at. Substance abuse is at a very all-time high. The death rate. There are students that are still passing away due to substance abuse. We don't really like to talk about it, and we wish that problem would just go away, but it's not. We can't incarcerate it away, and sometimes we think that we can just ignore it and it goes away. All of you parents that have been struggling with your child with substance, let's figure out a way to educate them in a proper way. And I know that definitely can happen, but I just need your support. That's all I'm asking for. On Friday, I'm going in to put in my application. I'm filling out all the paperwork now. I'm going to need your help for signs, putting them out on the road, going to knock on doors, anything that you can do to offer. If you really believe in what I'm saying and you know that I'm passionate, anything that I put my hand on, I'm going to do it to the best. Nobody's going to push me left or right. They're just not going to. This is a nonpartisan race, and I'm going to keep it nonpartisan. Some of you might think that you can only support someone on the left or you can only support someone on the right. I'm not that guy. I'm just an average guy that's looking for a new trajectory. I want schools to be important. I want teachers' education and their livelihood to increase. Now, we know there's a budget problem. There's always, everything costs money. Now, a lot of the things that go on in the budgets are out of our control. But I know that if it's in our control, I'm going to do my best to figure it out. I want to squeeze every penny out that budget to make sure that these kids get everything that they need so that they can be successful. If you want to come alongside of me, you're going to get more information coming soon, because I'm going to tell you, if you need an ear and you need a voice to be in that room, I'm that guy for you. I don't need to compete against anybody. Let everybody run their race the way they want to run it. I know that God has helped me throughout my life, brought me out of many different places that I've never thought I would ever come out of, but I'm here. I've been successful at a business. I've been in many different positions in the business world and just in the community. I like to give back to people. Look at Sober Christmas Project. I've been doing that for 8 years, and it's been getting bigger and bigger. Why? Because I look at the least of these. I know that the top of the education system is doing very well. I noticed that. There's a lot of fine arts in Frederick, and I will tell you this, there's a lot of good things here. But my goal is to look at the very bottom. Look at all of the bullying that's going on. All those parents that have just been frustrated because they've been dealing with their kids being bullied. We're going to find an answer. Somebody's going to answer to that, and somebody's going to find a way that we can bring some discipline back to the children. I'm not saying that we have to be punitive in everything that we do, but we have to bring accountability to the students, because we want all the students to feel good. We want them to feel normal, and we want them to feel happy every day they come into school. People don't talk about the suicide rates of being bullied. Oh, but I know those stats, and I'm going to be there to help prevent that here in Frederick County. I just want to make sure that you understand that I love these children. I love you guys. You might not know me, not yet, but you will, because my voice is I'm not going to stop, because I'm going to make sure that every kid that's out there struggling has a voice to be heard. And if just like I was molested as a kid and nobody ever talked about me. All they said was he's bad and pushing to the side. But you know what? Not anymore, not in this county, because if I can help it, I'm going to make sure that their stories are heard and that their stories get a resolution. It's David Brooks, and I'm going to be running for the Board of Education in 2022. Election primaries are in July. I'm going to need your help over the next 4 months to make this happen. And when it does, we're going to the general elections. And when after that, we're going to make some noise. And we are definitely going to make some changes. Thank you. Take it easy. Bye.